All right, so at this center, we are going to experiment using what GarageBand calls the smart instruments. The smart instruments are kind of like a mixture of the live instruments and the loops where you barely have to do any of the work. We're going to go ahead and start by hitting GarageBand, the one with the little. And we are going to hit the plus sign in the top left-hand corner, and that plus sign is going to give us a new song. Now we have the two options. We have live loops, which is a different center, and tracks. I want to select tracks. It should be blue. And we are going to look around at some of our options of smart instruments. Now the smart instruments, you'll notice, have the gears around them and they have the word smart before them. As usual, I want to start with some drums, so I'm going to hit smart drums. Now this looks a little different here. You'll notice we have the instruments on the right-hand side. You'll notice we have the name of the instrument on the left, and we have a little drum pad in the middle. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag in a kick. A kick is my low sound. Now, if I want it quieter, I want to drag it lower in the grid. If I want it louder, I want to drag it higher. If I want to keep it simple, maybe just on beats 1 and 3 or 2 and 4, I'd move it over here. But if I want it to be something more complex, I move it to this side. And you'll notice that it plays more often. I think I want to keep it on the louder side because it's my low voice, and I'll put it there for simplicity. Now my snare, my high voice, needs to also be very prominent. So I'm going to put my snare so it's a little more complex, but about the same volume as my low sound, meaning it's about as loud. Now I have some other options. I have claps, hi-hats, shaker, and cymbals. We can get really complex, but a lot of times in composition, less is more. You just want a couple of voices, and you want them to be high-quality voices rather than layering in everything all at once. So I think for this one, since it's a hip-hop drum machine, let's put some claps in. And I can experiment with what the complex sounds are like, how loud it is. I think for this time, let's leave it here. Now say I'm really happy with what I've come up with so far. I'm going to go ahead and record it, and I want to record an 8-beat loop, or not 8 beats, 8 measure loop I should say. So I'm going to hit the record button and just let it do its thing until my cursor gets to the number 8. Counts off, and it's recording. And it just kind of plays itself. You don't have to do very much, it just plays itself. All right, so I've got 8 beats there. I'm going to hit the play button so it stops playing. Take a look at my track by hitting the icon with the bars. Now if I want to go back to my drum kit, I just hit the drum. If I want to look at it in track view, I hit the button with the bars on it on the top left-hand side. Now this shows me my track, my hip-hop drum machine. I can listen to it. I could highlight it, move it around, make it longer, make it shorter. I'm going to leave it as is because I want it to be looped. And, you know, I think I like the idea of having it loop. So I'm going to go ahead and select it and hit loop. Now I need something else besides just a hip-hop drum machine. So I'm going to go back to the instrument view. The top left-hand side, you see this icon with the squares on it. I'm going to hit that icon with the squares on the top left-hand side next to the drum. Here are my smart instruments. Let's see, I have smart strings, smart bass, smart piano, smart guitar, or smart keyboard. A bass line is always a good second step, so let's add a bass line. Now remember, we have to make sure that this bass line matches the genre that I am going for. Right now I have a hip-hop drum kit, so I'm probably not going to choose a rock bass. So let's look at our options. We're probably going to want to have one of the basses that's based on a keyboard, as the bass guitars are much more jazz and rock oriented. Let's go ahead with Light Cycle. We'll try it out. Why not? And here we have some options for different chords. Now instead of being set up in note order, these are set up in fifths. So they sound good together. They're made to sound good together. Now you don't want to go ahead and play everyone because that's going to sound goofy. You want to pick two. And you'll notice the ones that sound good together are placed together. So E minor and A minor are a good place to start. See how the different sounds fit together well? See what you like, don't like. And try to come up with a sequence. That means a repeating pattern that you want to record. You'll probably want it to be something catchy and something that you can repeat over and over again. Not a melody, but more of an ostinato on the bass. So let's say I really like this. Now this one I do actually have to play, unlike the drum kit. Maybe I'll mess with the resonance a little. You can see how that changes the sound. You can mess with the cutoff. I think for now, I'm going to go ahead and just record it. So it's going to give me 4 beats to count off. Make sure your cursor's at the very beginning. You see I just moved it. Here we go. Now let's say, for fun, that I like what I did. I can go back here and look at what I did. And then I can play it together and see, do I like it? Now something that's kind of cool about this is it placed it right at the beginning, but what if I want to layer it in like that cake? A lot of times layering in these loops is a little bit like making a cake where you have the different layers. I want to start simple, so let's say I just want the drums for the first 4 measures. I can move my bass by highlighting it and moving it with my finger to wherever I want it. I can make it longer. I can copy and paste. Now I think I'm happy with that. So let's add one more instrument. Since we're going hip hop, I think some keys would be a good idea. Keyboards. I'm probably not going to have a grand piano in a hip hop song, although a lot of hip hop artists are branching out these days and using things like grand pianos. But for the purpose of this, let's keep it simple. And let's look at something like, let's try Polarize. Because why not? Now I used E minor and A minor in my last song, so I'm not going to want to go using G and C in this, or in my last track. I'm not going to use G and C in this track because then I'll be in 2 different keys. I need to use the same key. That is so important that you stay in the same key. Now I'm going to go ahead and come up with a melody that I like. Record it. And just for the sake of time, let's say I really like what I recorded. You'll notice that it has the triads of each chord rather than having it in note order. Let's click on the bars to get back to the track view. See how I like it, put it together. Now, if I really like what I've come up with so far, I think for this I want to move this layer up to measure 6. Remember, we like to go in 2s, so add things every 2 measures, 4 measures, or possibly 6 or 8 measures. Let's say I'm happy with what I have. I'm going to go to My Songs. I'll see the cool thing about GarageBand is that it saves it automatically. I don't have to do a thing. It's saved as My Song 5. And then I'm going to go to the Producing and Sharing Center. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you come up with some creative and wonderful music.